Tonight's Sunday night, sticking it to the man Sunday night. So tonight we're going to cover cash flows. Just like what my future cash flows look like using Right Capital. So one of the things I want to draw to your attention very quickly is if you go to the description of this video, you'll see contextually I give links to all of my core videos that show you how to use different features and how to install Right Capital. So I was talking to a friend of mine. He said he gets a little confused sometimes. So what we're doing is I'm doing that going forward in the description, so you can see where this video sits in relation to other videos. Okay. So again, I'm going to hit dashboard snapshot. That's where I always start. Remember, because you're using root, if you're going through it, some of these options may be in a different order, but they're the same options. Okay, so for cash flow in Right Capital, you go to retirement, and then you go to cash flows, which is right here. Okay, so this is probably one of the most important things I use. I don't use the maps too much, but I use summary a lot. So I use it. This is one of the things that actually distinguishes Right Capital from Bolden. I actually heard of something else today too that I'm going to investigate a little more. Another software application. It's like $100 a year. I thought I'd looked at and I didn't like it. But so I use this extensively, right? This is really a good sanity check for your retirement plan because it starts showing you real numbers. So, and you start looking for trends, right? So for me, these are all my real numbers. You're going to see it gives us the year, the age. Anytime a column is underlined, it means you can drill down into it. So let's just take a look. So if we look at our income flows, 75,000, 75,000, 76,000. So this is Beth. This is my wife because she's still staying as a teacher. You'll see uh, she when she's 63, this gets reduced because she kind of changed her mind and now she's telling me she wants to be 63, but I can move it to 62 as well. But anyhow, you're going to see these income flows, right? And I'm showing you how I look at this so you can logically think of the same way. You want to look for anomalies, things that don't make sense. So you'll see, why does this go down to 62? When I'm 62, she's 64, because in 63, she finishes up teaching. Uh, and then of course her income goes away. So let's drill in and take a look at what that income is. And actually just eyeballing some of this stuff. If you go to 67, that's when I start taking Social Security. So let's just take a good drill down example real quick of what our cash flow is going to look like in the future. Our cash flow is relatively like this now. So let's drill down. So you click on the top of the column, which I wish you could drill on the number itself, and you'll look. So she stops collecting her salary at 63. The first number is my age. The second number is her age. And then what we're doing is at 63, she's going to start collecting her Social Security. I'm going to collect mine later. She's going to collect hers earlier. She gets a pension. You can note the pension in this year is 12,600 because it's like a partial year. I probably got her ending in like September or July because that's the last school year or last month of the school year. So then you go down here and you start saying she's just collecting just Social Security, right? Through here. And then at 67, I start collecting Social Security. You can see that by drilling in on it. And you can see Steve's retirement benefit, nothing. And then best retirements benefit, she's going to start collecting. Actually, I'm probably going to have to move this to 63 because I'm not going to have her collect if she's still working. So that will go here at 63. That benefit will go up a little bit. I don't know what this earning test adjustment is. And then that gives your total. Oh, I know. The earnings test adjustment is because I've got her collecting Social Security. Once I take that off, this is probably removing the Social Security she's collecting because she's working. So that'll go away. So you'll see, and then you can also go back by clicking on the top here. So let's go back to the summary. So that's a quick explanation of the income, right? And why we see some of it go up, some of it go down. She has a pension. I mean, you can look at all these numbers, right here, and you can freeze the YouTube. But she has a pension of 25,000 a year. It's no colas attached to it. So this gives us our total income flows. And you'll see when I hit 2000, when I hit 67, I start collecting Social Security, which brings this up a lot, which brings our income up. Okay, so that's just our income. Let's go up to summary. Income's pretty straightforward, right? So there's also a planned distribution column here, which basically Right Capital is telling you if you continue the route you're going, government's going to make you pull some fixed numbers from your plan. I don't know if I have a huge problem with that. It's more of a problem if one of us dies, because then you get stuck in a widow's tax trap. But I'll do a total another video on that. So that's a nice way where you can see, hey, based on my withdrawals now and the assets I'm going to have, am I going to have planned distributions where they make me distribute based on my age, which may or may not be a bad thing. You just have to see how it sits with taxes. I'll do a whole night on just that. So I don't have any other inflow. Oh, other inflow. I do have one. So if you look at this other inflow, this is when we move into our long-term care facility at 79 and 81, which I'll have a whole video on that. So if I drill into other inflows, you can see sale of real estate. So that's all they're doing is they're taking the value of my house as I have today, giving it an inflated amount, and then appraising it at 1 million in when I'm 79, which probably isn't too far off because the house is probably worth like 800,000 now. It's because it's Jersey though. It's not like a glamorous house. Okay, so those are our cash inflows. Let's look at our expenses. And what we'll do is you're obviously going to have your expense numbers in there, and this is your cash flows. But like this is awesome because you can actually project out to 79 what your expenses are going to be based on what you keyed in your profile. And if you want to see that video where I actually key stuff in under profile, just look at the context and you'll see there's a place that says keying in your budget. So you'll see these are our expenses now, which I could drill into them, of course. This is housing, healthcare. This is because Beth has to pay some out of her healthcare. Or did I up this? I'll have to look at that again. Let's see what other expenses, basically all those other expenses you put in. These are your granular, detailed expenses. And if you specify to inflate that expense when you create it, then it will adjust it for inflation. So you'll see I have some that aren't, like my charity stays where it's at. Because if we do better, I'll give more. But anyhow, car repairs, you can see that's been inflated. But let's just go back. I mean, like I said, the point is not necessarily to walk you through every single one of my numbers because I've already done that with the budget, but just kind of showing you how to use the cash flow tab in the summary, which I use all the time. Okay, so let's go back up to the summary. We're in expenses. So if you just look at a high level, you see they're going to stay pretty stable, right? So the question is, why here do they go up? Well, we can investigate that. I can tell you why they go up. They go up because I start doing, oh, no, that is interesting. Why does this go up? Because I do vacations. I changed my plan. If you look at my goals, because there are going to be years, so we have a special vacation fund. It's $20,000 a year when Beth retires at 63, all the way through till 77, like the go-go years. And so it used to be a line item in my profile budget. Problem was I couldn't remove one vacation because what could happen is, we may have a bad year. So I may actually have to say, hey, this year we're going to skip vacation. Or I may have a year where I go, let's spend 40,000 this year because it's been so good. And I want to be able to see that on a year by year basis. So what I did is I split out all these vacations into separate goals. See, each one is a separate year. But like you say, it's kind of a little bit nutty looking, but it gives me a lot of flexibility as I start managing this whole thing year by year to say, oh, we didn't spend that much this year, or we wanted to spend more. Let's look at some of the other goals. So some of my I have some of this stuff I had to do as a goal because I have to have it taken out of Beth's paycheck. It's stuff with her union, like union dues, health care, and then she has a pension deduction that is taken out for her in addition to her 403b. So, and we don't really put much into 403b anymore because once I retired, there just wasn't much point in it. We might as well just live on our cash. So you'll see what I have in here is I have some weddings I have to save for. So that's starting when I turn 59. So these are all the goals. Oh, so that's probably the 59. So what happens is 59, 104, 107, the goals, you'll see the goals go up. I'm kind of curious. This could just be inflation. 104, 107, 106. And this makes sense. Wait till what? Why does it go up so much at 116? Well, it's just interesting how it goes up 10,000 that year. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time looking at it with you guys, but I could investigate that. Like I could go in and say, oh, there it is. So it looks like it's healthcare. So, 61, 63. It's, I know what this is. This is healthcare. So what happens is when Beth stops working at 63, I got to go into Obamacare and I have uh, I have a set to put like $1,000 a month into that. So this is 24,000 and this is probably just this 24,000 divided in half because she stops working halfway through the year. So there you go. So there's a classic example of when you're looking through expenses, you're like, well, how come this expense goes up? Well, it's going up because I had 12,000. But what's so cool about Right Capital is you can actually drill down into this stuff and start looking at it. So that I think I've already covered healthcare, but you'll see that's what we do. So what we do is until we hit Medicare, I pull out like 24,000 a year for Obamacare. Let's see, and then the other expenses is basically everything else. It's all the different things. Like I said, we covered this in a budget. It's my house stuff. It's water. It's property taxes. It's food after the kids leave, food before the kids leave, basically all that good stuff. So using this line, this summary line up here, we're going to go back up to expenses. So other is detail. Housing is probably property taxes. Yeah, property taxes. I always get all sorts of fun comments when people see I got to pay 1,000 a month for property taxes. So let's go back to summary. Okay, and this is cool too. This is really cool as well. So we talked about the goals. I already clicked into the goals, right? We saw that. I have vacation. I split that out into every year. And then other goals, that's wedding stuff. Um, Goals is World Vision. We give to them once a year as a special gift. There's all this stuff. This is Beth's stuff that she gets taken out because she's a member of the union. Let's see, expenses, goals. This is kind of cool, right? So it calculates the taxes for you based on your income and where you're pulling stuff from. It's just awesome, and you can actually see in accounts. It'll actually show you where it's pulling it from. So this actually puts in your tax payment. So it gives you. Let's see, what is plans? Oh, planned savings is she puts away 50 a month into her 403b. I just didn't want to close it up, and so she puts away 50 a month. So that's $600. That's what planned savings is. So then you get your total net flows, which of course you look at this, it's kind of intimidating, right? It's like, oh, minus, 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 minus. It's all minuses except for this 1 year of 79, which is when we sell our house and move into long-term care. So we have this big, huge asset of 1.2 million for the house. And I'm only going to be using 472,000 of that for a down payment onto the long-term health care. So it's a little intimidating. So you may initially look at this when you're doing your plan and go, oh man, I must be screwed because my net flows are negative all the way through. But what you're not seeing in this, in the income, is what your investments are returning. So I'm going to go over the invested tab at one point, and this is net worth, which doesn't really mean much to me in my opinion. What I care about is my monthly income. So this is your invested assets. So that's what's nice. So even though when we were in the summary, we're seeing all these negatives and stuff, Right Capital knows that you're going to be applying those negatives to, or you're going to be applying the positive inflows of your invested assets, your 401ks and stuff are going to be applied to those negatives. So then you start feeling a little better. Okay, portfolio return at like 6%. My overall portfolio return is going to be 82, 85, 87. Now you can't set that. We'll get into we'll get into this a little more heavily, but this is offsetting all those negatives, so it's not as bad as you think. And quite frankly, I don't mind drawing down on my principal. That's why I saved it all those years. Now, I've said this before. Oh, and also look, there's these tabs too. So there's options. Like if we go to summary, you can switch this. Like I use the baseline. Baseline assumes whatever your growth is goes steady. So on your investments, even though I don't think baseline impacts any of the expenses and inflows, it mainly impacts your invested assets and stuff, which you'll see in accounts. But you have all these different options, strong growth scenario, flat zero. So you can play these out and kind of see how it impacts it. So these are your invested assets. What are their returns? These are my real numbers. So I'm just looking at invested assets and the ending balance is looking awesome. So, but let's go to accounts. I don't spend too much time in invested asset. I spend my accounts is where I do a sanity check. Because if you go to summary, like I said, it looks pretty grim. But if you go to accounts, all of a sudden this is where the rubber hits the road. Like, how much money do I actually have in my accounts throughout these years, right? So if you're to look at me and say, "Hey Steve, if you get an average of like 6%, which I think mine, you can calculate it. You can go into invested assets and say what percentage of 82,000 is um of my beginning balance, 1,828,000, and it's roughly. I think Josh, the guy I use this from, is roughly 6%, or I get 6 or 5%, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can calculate it yourself. But what you care about is this: like how much do I have left? Now, granted, the current simulation is saying I'm going to get that average 6% a year all the way through till I die, which you can see we have it planned for me at 89, her at 91. Um, so what you could do here, but anyhow, this is the sanity check. So as it stands now, if I get an average of 6% or five, I think it may be 5% return on my investments, then my lowest net balance will at 78 will be 1.2 million. I'm super comfortable with that, right? Now, that's on a regular trajectory, right? That you're always getting 6%. That may not happen, but like I said, you'll adjust. You'll adjust as you're working your retirement plan. So what you can do though is you can go here and say, well, what would happen? And this is a little grim, but I don't think this would ever happen. But we'll do it while we're sitting here. What would happen to my account balances if I never got a return, which is miserable, right? 20 years of the S&P 500 never returning, we're all going to be in trouble. But if you look at that, you let it load. I mean, that would be totally depressing, right? You can see it just gradually declines, which makes complete sense, right? Because your invested assets aren't making anything. So if the S&P 500, now granted, I'll still have Social Security. These are just account balances. But if we get no returns for 20 something 30 years, this is what's going to happen. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I'm willing to bet on that. So more realistically, he doesn't have any good ones that I really like in here, like a bad decade followed by slow growth. I don't even know if that's even happened. Usually what happens if you have a few bad years, it comes roaring back, at least the S&P 500. Um, so I don't know. I tend to use baseline, but we could look at that. I mean, just take a look. Bad decade followed by slow growth. Let's see what happens. It's better than zero growth. So see, even that's not horrible. So that makes me feel pretty good. You're talking 10 years of bad and then a slow growth economy. You'll see this is like going down, 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 down. And clearly things are worse. But in the end, I end up selling my house right around here and bringing that money back in. So in this situation, my worst is 382,000. So you can see how this is a real nice sanity check because you can actually fill in the blank. Like if you're planning before, this was me before retirement, before a year. I said, hey, I looked at my scenario and I said, would I feel comfortable retiring if, and then fill in the blank. So for me, it was, would I feel comfortable retiring if my worst year was I'm 78 years old and I have 1.2 million in the bank? And the answer was absolutely, without question. So this is a sanity check. You can play with it, yourself. You can look at different scenarios. There's a host, not too many. There's like 5 different scenarios here. I don't know what Ari's scenarios are, which is what you guys will be using Root if you're following my videos and doing what I'm suggesting and getting the software, which you should. Um, so that's kind of the cash flow tab. So I covered the cash flow tab summary, how to drill in, how to look at different things. It also covered the one that I use almost all the time too, which is accounts, which is a sanity check. So thanks for watching my video. Remember, in the description, there's like a bunch, there's contextual links there so that you can go back, because what I'm teaching you guys is I'm going through and teaching it using Right Capital and doing all the fundamental basics. I mean, I do throw in some videos that are just fun, um, but those I won't put in the core set of classes that I want you to go through, or the core set of stuff that I want you to go through as my example. So remember, I'm not a financial advisor. I just wish everyone could retire. I just went down to Florida for 9 days to visit my brother and just inject myself in his life and hang out with him for 9 days, and it was just awesome. Couldn't have done that before. So have a great night, and thanks for watching.